Good morning. On behalf of Gokhale Education Society's S.M.R.K. B.K.A.K. Mahila Mahavidyalaya, I extend a warm welcome to the national webinar on Understanding Revised Accreditation Framework, organized by Internal Quality Assurance Cell in collaboration with Quality Control Cell on the occasion of Azadi ka Amrut Mahostav. I welcome the President of the function, Honorable Sir Dr. M.S. Gosavi Sir, Secretary and Director General of Gokhale Education Society, a luminous mentor who stands synonymous to excellence. I welcome today's resource person, Dr.Mrs.Anjali Kulkarni, former Principal, N.B.Mehta Science and Commerce College, Dahanu Road, Bordi. I welcome our beloved Principal, Dr.Mrs.Deepti P.Deshpande Madam, HR Director of Gokhale Education Society, Dean of Estd Women's University, Department of Commerce and Management, an idealistic and visionary leader and a torchbearer of women empowerment. Professor Dr. Mrs. Kavita Patil, Vice Principal and Head of Textile Science and Apparel Designs, Dr. Mrs. Neelam Bokil, Vice Principal of the College. I also welcome Professor Dr. Nitin Songirkar Sir, Coordinator of Internal Quality Assurance Cell and Coordinator of Faculty of Commerce, and Professor Dr. Suresh Kanade, Coordinator of Quality Control Cell and HOD of Department of Hindi. Convener of the webinar, Dr. Ashlesha Kulkarni Madam, delegates from various corners of the world, members of the staff and dear students. The college, established in the year 1985, is first institution for women's education in North Maharashtra. The prime focus of the college is imbibing behavioral traits and attitudes to enable students to be successful in every walk of life. The college has achieved great heights and excellence in scholastic as well as non-scholastic domain. The college thus works on the basis of learner-oriented teaching-learning process, facilitating the girl students to create their meaningful and self-reliant social status in our aim, and we strive for the same. Education is the key. It is one of the pillars that enlighten the minds of the students and ensure to make a better tomorrow. It is through education that the different socio-cultural divides that exist in our country can be overcome. India has the highest youth population, but unless and until they are channelized towards an effective educational system by implementing necessary reforms, they would be facing a deplorable situation. Probably why the educational system has decided to make NAAC accreditation a mandate from 2022 onwards and also proposed NEP Policy 2020. NEP 2020 aims to focus on increasing the gross enrollment ratio so that more and more students get the facility of basic and higher education. There would be no rigid separation between different streams, extracurricular, vocational streams. In college, giving the liberty to the students to choose any domain as per their choice and aptitude. Revised accreditation framework needs to be following new educational policy, which dictates certain criteria that the institutes need to maintain, keeping in tune with the same objective. The theme for the webinar is Understanding Revised Accreditation Framework. Now I request Professor Dr. Nitin Songirkar Sir, Coordinator of Internal Quality Assurance Cell and Coordinator of Faculty of Commerce, for introduction of the webinar.
Good morning one and all, and welcome to one-day national webinar organized by the Internal Quality Assurance Cell of S.M.R.K. B.K.A.K. Mahila Mahavidyalaya, Nasik. I take this opportunity to welcome Honorable President of today's national webinar, Sir Dr. M.S. Gosavi Sir, Secretary and Director General of Gokhale Education Society, Nasik. Respected resource person of today's national webinar, Dr. Mrs. Anjali Kulkarni Madam, former Principal, N.B.Mehta Science and Commerce College, Bordi. respected Principal of our college, Dr.Mrs. P.Deshpande Madam, IQAC Chairperson, Webinar Director and HR Director of Gokhale Education Society, Nasik, Vice Principal of our college, Dr.Mrs. Patil Madam, Dr.Mrs. Bokil Madam, Convener of this webinar, Mrs. Kulkarni Madam, committee member and my colleagues from all faculty, non-teaching staff and dear delegates and participants. IQAC in any institute is a significant administrative body that is responsible for all the quality matter. It is the prime responsibility of IQAC to initiate, plan and supervise various activities that are necessary to increase the quality of the education imparted in an education or college. The primary aim to IQAC is to develop a system for aware, consistent and catalytic action to improve the academic and administrative performance of the institution. As per this objective, on the occasion of Azadi ka Amrut Mahostav, Internal Quality Assurance Cell in collaboration with Quality Control Cell organized this one-day national webinar on the topic of Understanding Revised Accreditation Framework. A mandate of NAAC R.A.F is that the institute must include the feedback of all the stakeholders, including student, parent and teacher. This can help to determine the gaps between the expectation of the industries regarding the syllabus that is taught in the institutes. The revised assessment and accreditation framework is also a step toward a better education system. It aims to transform the Indian education system by making it ICT enabled, transparent, scalable and robust. National Education Policy 2020 aims to focus on increasing the gross enrollment ratio so that more and more students get the facility of basic and higher education. There would be no need the distinction between different stream, extracurricular, vocational stream in school, giving the liberty to the student to choose any domain as per their choice and aptitude. To create awareness regarding this issue among all the stakeholders of the institute, we have organized this webinar. For this today's webinar, resource person is Dr.Mrs.Anjali Kulkarni Madam, former principal of N.B.Mehta Science and Commerce College, Bordi. We are fortunate to have Honorable Sir Dr. M.S. Gosavi Sir, Secretary and Director General of Gokhale Education Society, Nasik. The President of this webinar, Sir is an internationally renowned management scientist and mentor par excellence. We are indeed blessed to have his illustrious presence with us today. I am sure this activity will be successful under the able guidance by our respected Principal, Dr.Mrs. P.Deshpande Madam, Vice Principal and timely help extended by all the faculty members, non-teaching staff and active participation of delegates. Thank you very much.
Our respected Principal, Dr. Mrs. Deshpande Madam, is a veteran educationist and has to her credit a rich experience spanning over 38 years in the field of higher education. Her academic credentials include M.Com, BGL, M.Com in Communication Management, MBA, PhD. She began her career as a lecturer at BYK College of Commerce and then marked her way up to become the principal of S.M.R.K. B.K.A.K. Mahila Mahavidyalaya, Director Human Resource of Gokhale Education Society, and now the Dean of Faculty of Commerce and Management at SNDT Women's University, Mumbai. She is also the Director of Postgraduate Research Program of Yashwantarao Chauhan Open University, Nashik Center. Her illustrious career is marked by the contribution to a number of prestigious positions at college, Gokhale Education Society and at the university level. The academic facet of her personality includes a glowing contribution to research. She has published and presented more than 117 research papers and articles at the international and national level. She has authored more than 10 books published by reputed international and national publications, and also edited more than 75 publications. Her keen interest in research activities also finds reflection in her being the founder managing editor of Gokhale Education Society's research journal Swayam Prakash. Many of her research papers have been honored with the Best Paper Award on different platforms. 4 of the books authored by her are included in bibliographic records of the online catalogue of the Library of Congress OCLC-INC. She has organized more than 45 UGC-funded and other international, national and state level seminars, workshops and conferences and more than 24 webinars. 12 of her research students have been awarded PhD and MPhil degrees. She was deputed to Canada on mission of exploring the Canadian higher education careers and opportunities by Maharashtra Council of Economic Development in the year 2006. Along with being a life member of Gokhale Education Society, she is a life member of 15 renowned academic and professional institutions. Her distinctive presence in the field of education has been acknowledged with more than 40 honors and awards at national and international level. She has been bestowed upon with the Best Teacher Award for 4 times by acclaimed organizations. She has been honored with Asian Admirable Achievers Award by R.A.F International, New Delhi, Bharat Vidya Shiromani Award, Asia Pacific Educationist Award by National and International Compendium, New Delhi, Excellent Principal National Award bestowed at National Education Leaders Summit by Saksham Society, Jaipur, Rajasthan, Raktamitra Puraskar by Arpan Blood Bank, Dr. Kalam Ubharani Prerna Puraskar by an NGO at Pune, Award for Exemplary Service 2021 by ISTD, New Delhi, Achievers Award 2021 by Gokhale Education Society, Dynamic Women Achievers Award by Business Network International, Nashik, and National Level Shiksha Gaurav Puraskar 2022 by Center for Education Growth and Research on the occasion of 18th Rashtriya Shiksha Gaurav Puraskar Ceremony 2022 at New Delhi, to mention a select few. An exemplary and inspiring leader, her futuristic insights have resulted in initiation of range of endeavors that have richly contributed to the benefit of various stakeholders of S.M.R.K. College, Gokhale Education Society and SNDT Women's University. Madam has inculcated the pattern of excellence at each level. I now request Honorable Dr.Mrs.Deepti P.Deshpande Madam for welcome speech.
Good morning to one and all. At the outset, myself, Principal Dr. Deepti Deshpande, extend a very cheerful and hearty welcome to you all. Friends, we all here for the inaugural function of a virtual national webinar on understanding revised accreditation framework being organized by IQAC, Internal Quality Assurance Cell, in collaboration with QCC, Quality Control Cell of our S.M.R.K. B.K.A.K. Mahila Mahavidyalaya. As we all know, both these cells are very important for the colleges. And friends, to do the honors, we have amidst us today Sir Dr. M.S. Gosavi, Secretary and Director General of Gokhale Education Society as President of the function. Sir is contributing meaningfully to the field of education for last 64 years. Principal, administrator, orator, writer, editor, Sir is true source of inspiration for all of us. Under his able leadership and with his dynamic vision, our Gokhale Education Society today is a leading quality educational enterprise of India. Youngest principal at the age of 23, with longest tenure of principalship of 37 years, he is Sir's world record. Recipient of very many awards and honors, more than 100 to mention. awards like Master Teacher of Millennium, Sir title, Best Teacher Award many times, Vidya Saraswati Award at the hands of Bharat Ratna Lata Didi Mangeshkar. Sir has been selected as one of the top 100 educationists of the world by International Biographical Center, Cambridge. 87 years young, Sir is amidst us to bless the occasion. I wholeheartedly welcome you, sir. Chief guest and resource person of today's webinar is Dr.Mrs.Anjali Kulkarni, ex-principal of N.B.Mehta Science and Commerce College, Bordi. Madam has served in Gokhale Education Society for more than 40 years. She is also shouldering responsibility of Gokhale Education Society's Staff Training Academy very successfully from 2021. Linguist, Madam is deeply interested in research work. She has organized many international and national conferences during her tenure as a principal at Bordi College. She has published many research papers too. Madam has worked as NAAC peer team chairperson and member for accreditation of many colleges in India. Hardcore teacher, Madam is known for her discipline and quality work in all domains in which she has worked. Today, Dr.Mrs.Anjali Kulkarni is amidst us to share her views on understanding revised accreditation framework. I wholeheartedly welcome you, Madam. Friends, Gokhale Education Society, to which our college belongs, is known for its culture of excellence and student-centered innovative education at affordable cost. It was the vision of Principal P.T.A.Kulkarni to cater to the needs of the last man in the society. This is the ideological foundation of our society. To develop world-class citizens through quality education at affordable cost by maintaining dignity of the teaching profession is the mission of Gokhale Education Society. And I must say, President of Society, Principal S.B. Pandit and Sir Dr. M.S. Gosavi, Secretary and Director General, has always inspired us to keep the legacy of organization run completely by teachers. Today, the team of 3,000 staff members and 1,25,000 students is our real strength. Our S.M.R.K. B.K.A.K. Mahila Mahavidyalaya is a proud member of Gokhale Education Society. Established on 28 June 1985, our college is contributing meaningfully to the field of women education for last 37 years. Friends, this is the pioneering women's college in northern Maharashtra, running 33 programs very successfully under one roof, and which is ISO 9001:2015 certified and NAAC Reaccredited. Our college is permanently affiliated to Estd Women's University Mumbai, which is the only university that enjoys jurisdiction all over India. Empowerment of women through quality education is our mission, and I think today's national webinar is one more step towards achieving this mission. India has one of the largest and diverse education system in the world. To make quality assurance as integral part, to maintain high quality in higher education in India, and also to uplift the standard of education in India, University Grants Commission established National Assessment and Accreditation Council (NAAC) in 1994 as an autonomous institution with its headquarters in Bengaluru. From 1994 till date, NAAC has made many times it has revised its accreditation framework. As we all know, that today NAAC accreditation is a must for every higher educational institute in India. It is very much essential to understand revised accreditation framework of NAAC. I congratulate Professor Dr. Nitin Songirkar, Commerce Coordinator and NAAC Coordinator, and also all NAAC and QCC members for organizing this virtual national webinar on most opportune theme, and that too at most opportune time when many colleges are preparing for their reaccreditation cycle. I hope the objective of today's webinar is to create awareness about revised accreditation framework and to acquaint the participants with all accreditation criteria will be achieved through the meaningful discourse in today's virtual webinar. I also hope that the outcome of this virtual webinar, which is being organized on the occasion of Azadi Ka Amrut Mahostav of India, will be useful to all the NAAC accreditation aspirants and also to all academicians, participants out there. I extend my best wishes for today's program. I once again extend a very warm welcome to you all. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, madam, for your valuable guidance. Our today's resource person, Dr.Mrs.Anjali Kulkarni, the former principal of N.B.Mehta Science and Commerce College, Bordi. She has to her credit more than 3 decades of experience in the field of education. She has completed her MA, MPhil, PhD from the University of Pune. She has worked as member of Syllabus Framing Committee for UG and PG courses of English for the University of Pune. She has also broadcasted a number of lectures on Yashovani. She has conducted many workshops for corporate personnel in communication and soft skills. She has worked as a member of NAAC Assessor Peer Team for colleges in Telangana, Chandigarh and Punjab. She has published a number of research papers in national and international journals of repute. She was bestowed with Zagar Zanivetsa Award by the Government of Maharashtra. I now request Madam for her discourse.
Good morning. The president of today's function, Gokhale Education Society's Secretary and Director General, Sir Dr. Ms. Gosavi, the HR Director and Director of this webinar, Principal Dr.Mrs.Deepti Deshpande, Dr. Songirkar, the staff members of S.M.R.K, B.K.A.K, Mahila Mahavidyalaya, the participants of this webinar, a warm good morning to all of you. Today, I'm going to speak about understanding R.A.F, Revised Accreditation Framework, issued by NAAC in 2017. The relevance of trying to understand R.A.F 2017 is because there have been continuous changes that have been brought about by NAAC over the years. So it is necessary to understand the changes that have been made as well as the reason behind all those changes. Once we understand the logic behind the changes that have been made, most probably we would be able to comfortably face the NAAC exercise and win laurels. It is extremely important that we try to follow the developments that take place in NAAC because they are directly associated with the developments that are going to take place in the coming future because of the new education policy or the National Education Policy 2020. So the topic I'm going to speak about today is understanding R.A.F. NAAC came up in 1994 as a part of the globalization project that the world that took place the world over. If Indian education has to become internationally acclaimed, if our students have to or should be accepted abroad, should be accepted in the workforce abroad, it is necessary that we follow all the quality parameters that are set down according to the international standards. That is exactly what NAAC expects us to do, and that is exactly what NAAC assesses and later accredits us for. So this entire exercise becomes meaningful when we understand that this is in order to ensure that our students stand tall when they face the worldwide competition. I shall share my presentation with you in a moment. I hope the screen is visible to all. So the topic of our deliberation today is understanding the revised accreditation framework. In this session, we will address the following points. Education. Why education? What are our objectives behind imparting education to our young? What are the parameters of quality education? What is the role of NAAC in ensuring quality education? What are the functions of IQAC? NAAC has made it mandatory that every college has an internal quality assessment and assurance cell. Its functions and its benefits. Every year, we are supposed to send an annual quality report. It is a self-assessed report, and we are supposed to send that to NAAC. There have been continuous revisions in the AQAR, and so it is necessary to follow all those changes. When R.A.F came up, there were a few newly introduced key indicators, and these newly introduced key indicators have made this revised framework very objective and has ruled out the subjectivity that it was earlier accused of. We would also need to find out what is the status of NAAC accreditation in institutions in Maharashtra. And there are some special suggestions, especially for criterion 3 and 7, regarding the new introduced key indicators. Why education? What does education do? To quote former UN Secretary Ban Ki-moon, education promotes equality and lifts people out of poverty. It teaches children how to become good citizens. Education is not just for a privileged few, it is for everyone. Unquote. In these 3 sentences, you have the gist of what the new education policy, the national education policy, is trying to do. And NAAC is going to follow suit. The NAAC accreditation, the NAAC assessment will also concentrate on these 3 important points. The first is promoting equality. Second is making the educated children, making the educated young employable, making them entrepreneurs. Children need to become good citizens. And everyone has a right to education. So inclusion or inclusivity is also another of the most important pillars of education that the national education policy has referred to. After all, Vidya, sa Vidya ya vimukte. Knowledge is that, education is that which liberates. Liberates us from ignorance, liberates us from fear, liberates us from dependency, makes us empowered. Going further, we must ensure that the education we are imparting is quality education, because quality education empowers society. It helps in developing responsible citizenry. It enforces value-embedded education. It determines one's livelihood by giving employability or entrepreneurship, developing entrepreneurship. It enables lifelong learning. It helps to find solutions to the many problems that society faces through scientific and innovative means. It is aimed at achieving the desired outcomes. Unless and until we ensure quality education, we will not be able to fulfill these promises that we are making to ourselves. The teacher has always been an important part of the system of education. In a number of roles that the teacher has to play, the teacher requires instruction diversity. So at one moment you are a teacher, at the other moment you are a facilitator, at the third moment you are an overseer, at the fourth moment you might be a peer to your students even. The teacher's role is very flexible, and it is all the more flexible now with multidisciplinary teaching and learning that is going to be introduced very soon, with the multiple exit and entries possibilities of students. So teaching requires instruction diversity. The quality of a teacher or the level of a teacher depends upon the role that the teacher plays. So a teacher is not restricted to being a lecturer alone. The multiple roles that the teacher plays is as an adhyapak, information provider, upadhyay, who combines information and knowledge and authority, a pandit with deep subject knowledge and erudition, a drashta, who is a visionary, who can view the future of his subject and the future of his thought, a seer, and a guru who awakens the potential within the students. He is the preceptor. I'm sure we all are playing these roles at different levels. Now, we need to play these roles with more care and with more information. We do not learn from experience. We learn from reflecting on experience. Unless and until we develop the faculty of understanding, comprehending, and thinking over it, reflecting over it, experience alone does not teach us anything. The logo of NAAC talks about three important abstract terms with a Q and a graduation hat in the middle of the Indian map. It stands for excellence, credibility, relevance. It tries to find excellence among the higher education institutions. It verifies the credibility of the higher education institutions. And it makes continuous changes so as to stay relevant to the existing and to the future education system. It has defined its vision and says that quality is the defining element of higher education in India through a combination of self and external quality evaluation, promotion, and sustenance initiatives. We have 2 levels of assessment that we conduct. One level of assessment is self-assessment. When we are sending out our AQARs, we are actually assessing ourselves. And the second is when you send your IIQA and invite NAAC to assess you and accredit you. So one is a self-quality evaluation, and the second is the external quality evaluation, which helps in the promotion of quality and the sustenance of quality. In its philosophy, in its statement of philosophy, NAAC has ruled out the possibility that it will be punitive or judgmental. If you have gone through the very many reports that NAAC teams give you after they complete their visit to your college, to your institution, you will find out that there are hardly any negative statements that are made or hardly any accusations or hardly any problems that are stated in the report. What happens is, while we are preparing the report, we only jot down those points that are relevant to the claims that you have mentioned. But when you go to the last page of your report, there are 10 suggestions that the team gives you. If you read in between the lines of the 10 suggestions, you will find out that the team is pointing out at the weaknesses of your institution. The team is pointing out at what could have been better had such and such a thing taken place. So please read the last part of your report very carefully to understand how to improve for the next cycle. So as I said, the philosophy of NAAC is ameliorative and enabling rather than punitive or judgmental. They are not there to find faults. They are there to find facts. The team is, or in fact, the entire exercise is based on fact-finding rather than fault-finding. As you are all aware, the mission of NAAC is to conduct periodic assessment and accreditation of institutions of higher education. It helps in promotion of quality of teaching, learning, and research. It encourages self-evaluation, accountability, autonomy, and innovations. It helps to undertake research studies, consultancy, training programs. It itself takes up quality-related research studies, consultancy, and training programs. If you visit the NAAC site, you will find a number of books that NAAC has published on quality in higher education, and collaborate with other stakeholders of higher education for quality evaluation, promotion, and sustenance. I want to draw your attention to the NAAC value framework, because this framework helps us to determine the very many projects we undertake as part of our activities in the colleges or in the institutions. There are 5 core values which NAAC proposes to promote among the HEIs. The first and foremost is contributing to national development. Whenever you are undertaking any important project, ask yourself the question whether your project matches up with any of these 5 core values, so that then it would be easy for you to put them down as a proof that you are supporting the core values that NAAC has decided. The first is contributing to national development. In fact, the very fact that our system, our education system, is grooming students, is helping students to grow, is helping students to learn, is helping students to develop their personalities, is helping students to become good citizens of India, is in itself a contribution to national development. After all, a nation is not just a map. A nation is not just space. A nation is not just the boundaries of the earth. A nation is known by the people which live in that nation. And if we are value adding to the people of our nation, obviously it is contributing to national development. Are our students being trained in such a way that they will be able to face the global competition once they are out of the HEIs after graduation, post-graduation, or even research? Can we ensure, can we guarantee that our students will be able to stand this international competition? If yes, then obviously we are following the second core value that NAAC has placed before us. Inculcating a value system among students, developing good citizens of the country, helping them to understand the importance of good behavior, helping them to understand the various abstract ideas like patriotism, tolerance, peace, gratitude. All these are extremely necessary, and we need to inculcate these values in our students. Are we preparing programs for the same? Are we training our students? Are we developing these values in them? And if we are, how are we doing that is the important question. Promoting the use of technology. I need not speak much about the promotion of the use of technology because we have learned our lessons the hard way during the COVID period. NAAC, if you remember, even in 2004, NAAC had referred to the use of technology in teaching learning. If you go back to the criterion of the 2004 manuals, NAAC had been referring to the use of technology, which honestly we did not understand till the past 2 years, when we had to conduct our classes online, when we had to juggle with the difficulties that COVID-19 placed before us. That has now prepared us, at least mentally, to accept and be flexible about our teaching and learning processes and quest for excellence. That is the watchword. Excellence is the watchword that is important. So when we are talking about quality, let us try to understand how do we understand quality, or what is it that translates your activity into a quality activity. The focus on customer and student. If we are talking about the industrial world, it is the focus on the customers. Here, in the ISO terminology, our student is our customer, our consumer. So customer-student focus. The leadership and administration, the quality of leadership that you get, the administration that is around, people involvement, the support received by the local community, the process approach, how are the processes being undertaken in your institution, admission, teaching, learning, evaluation, all these are processes. They do not depend upon people. They do not depend upon persons. Once the process is laid down, anyone should be able to follow that process and finalize the entire activity. A systematic approach to management, whether it's upward and downward communication, whether it is identifying roles and responsibilities, we need to continually upgrade ourselves, update ourselves. So a continuous evaluation of ourselves is necessary. Factual approach to decision making, mutually beneficial stakeholder relationships. Now, if we tick mark each of them, if we try and examine our own performance with reference to these parameters, we would be able to understand that these are exactly the same parameters that have been turned into criterion by the NAAC manuals. So, how do we fare on these scales? Reliability, responsiveness, competence, access, courtesy, communication, credibility, security, understanding the customer needs, and tangibles such as facilities, types of equipment, infrastructure, etc. Check all these 10 parameters, 10 dimensions, and you will realize that all of them are included in the NAAC manuals. Well, there are 3 levels of quality. The first is acceptable quality. If you allow me to use the regional language, chalta hai quality. Chale, theek hai. Appropriate quality. Yogya ashi quality. Aspirational quality. You aspire for that quality. You aim at that quality. You are determined to reach that quality. We need to make sure whether we are happy staying at number 1, acceptable quality, number 2, appropriate quality, or we need to aim at aspirational quality. Look at this. Suppose I have not been able to take classes and complete my syllabus. I may tell my students, well, students, I'll be sending out notes to you so that the syllabus will be completed. Can I really do that? Should I really do that? Because if you can't repair the brakes, you cannot help by making the horn louder. The brakes have to be in place. The horn has to be in place. So this kind of a compromise with quality is what we usually suffer from. And we need to be sure that we don't compromise on quality. So when we are approaching NAAC, what do they assess? What does NAAC assess? Assessment of what? There are 11 parameters on which our performance is assessed. Number 1, the educational processes and outcomes, the curriculum design, teaching, learning, evaluation, faculty, research. These are the first 5. Then infrastructure, learning resources, organization, governance, financial well-being, and student services. If we go back a little, the educational processes and outcomes, the curriculum design, teaching, learning, evaluation, faculty, research. All these 11 become part of the various criteria rather, that NAAC has put before us. Assessing these parameters leads to accreditation. Coming to the main point now, there has been a continuous revision of guidelines for AQAC and AQAR. IQAC and AQAR. The first revised accreditation framework was introduced in June 2017, when suddenly 70% of our data was to be validated by an independent agency set by NAAC, and 30% of our data was to be checked by the peer team that would actually visit our premises. Before that, 100% of marks were vested in the peer team visit. With the help of technology, they have been able to reduce the subjectivity by 70%. That took place in 2017. At that time, they had also introduced the window system, where they had decided that they would allow the SSRs to be submitted in June and in December only. But then, given the enormous number of higher education institutions in our country, it would not have been feasible to limit the submission of SSRs to just 2 periods. And therefore, that was removed. The window period was removed. So after June 2017, the next revision came on 26 September 2019. After that, 20th February 2020, you had version 7. The draft was placed on the NAAC website for suggestions until 20th May 2020. After which, the AQAR format was revised with a revised manual with effect from the academic year 2021, and this was introduced in June 2020. This included the incorporation of preparedness for NEP 2020 in the AQAR guidelines from 21-22. The modified content was posted on 23rd March 2022. NAAC AQAR October 21 updated version as on April 2020. Look at the number of revisions that NAAC has undertaken so that their entire process becomes more and more objective, more and more transparent, and more customer friendly. Why did this revised accreditation framework come? It was introduced to make the entire system objective, transparent, and robust. The methodology emphasized upon ICT-enabled assessment. This framework can establish scores quantitatively and integrate the performance of the institution in 7 broad criteria. 70% of that would be done by, as I said, the DVV, data validation and verification, including student satisfaction survey. This was an addition that they brought up in 2018. The student satisfaction survey, because the student is the most important customer, the student is the most important product, both of the education system. The performance of the institution is analyzed on 3 levels: on the level of metrics, on the level of key indicators, on the level of criteria. Quick results of assessment and accreditation was one more additional advantage because of this revised framework. Now, after the peer team visit is over, within the next week, the institute gets its result. The AQAR format also was revised with the manual, with effect from the academic year 2021. And what were the changes that came over? The prerequisites for the submission of AQAR for the second and subsequent cycles of assessment and accreditation were: number one, the institution must have a functional IQAC, internal quality assessment cell. The minutes of IQAC meetings and compliance to the decisions taken should be uploaded on the institutional website, which again means that the website has to be working condition, and the website has to carry most of the information that you are going to send to NAAC. The institution should have uploaded the AQAR on its institutional website for access to all its stakeholders. It does not remain only a communication between the institution and NAAC. It is available to anyone who wishes to go through your AQAR. What the college has done in the previous years is now open and transparent for anyone who is interested in reading it. So they also issued stringent guidelines for forming IQAC, establishing the internal quality assurance cell so that it helps in quality sustenance and helps in developing a system for conscious, consistent, catalytic improvement of the performance of the institutions. That was the reason why they stressed upon the an active IQAC. The formation of an IQAC has also been specified by NAAC. Who should its members be? How should its members function? What are the expectations from IQAC? What is the role of IQAC? All these points have been very carefully mentioned in the numerous publications that NAAC has sent out. The vision of the IQAC is very important to ensure quality culture as the prime concern for the higher education institutions through institutionalizing and internalizing all the initiatives taken with internal and external support. So whatever initiatives the higher education institution takes up, it has to become part of its everyday functioning. It has to become part of its quality endeavors. And therefore, trying to spell out the vision of the institution, the mission of the institution, the objectives of the institution, the goals of the institution is extremely important, and knowledge about all this has to be shared by each and every stakeholder of the institution. The primary aim of the IQAC is to develop a system for conscious, consistent, and catalytic action to improve the academic and administrative performance of the institution, and to promote measures for institutional functioning towards quality enhancement. The IQAC, the functions of the IQAC, as we all know, development and application of quality benchmarks. Now, many a times this question of benchmarks is asked in most of the workshops or webinars that are conducted. How do we determine a benchmark? Benchmarks are to be determined by the institution itself. Suppose last year, I have, or my institution has, a result of approximately 90%. My benchmark is 90%. I need to aim at improving my benchmark by aiming a 95% result or a 92% result higher than what I was able to achieve or my institution was able to achieve in the previous year. So benchmarks are actually not external. The best part is you are competing not with outside institutions. You are not competing with any external forces. You are competing with yourself. You are trying to improve yourself incrementally. So last year, if you are at 90%, this year, your IQAC must decide that your results will have to improve by at least 5%. So this is just an example of how to set a benchmark. Parameters for various academic and administrative activities of the institution. You have the IQAC has to determine the various parameters, the various conditions, the various rules for administrative academic activities, which are the different activities that you should hold during the year. So you have to prepare, the IQAC has to prepare the annual calendar of the institution, keeping in mind what you did in the previous year and what you have claimed to be doing as a plan that you have sent in your AQAR. Facilitating the creation of a learner-centric environment conducive to quality education and faculty maturation to adopt the required knowledge and technology for participatory teaching and learning process. So the IQAC not only thinks about or should not only think about the students' progress, it should also think about, it should also plan for the staff development as well. Documentation is an important part because unless and until you provide suitable proofs for whatever you claim, you are not going to get the marks that you deserve. So documentation of various programs, activities leading to quality improvement. The IQAC acts as the nodal agency of the institution for coordinating quality-related activities. Developing best practices. I'm going to speak a little about what is best practice and what can be done about best practices. Development and maintenance of institutional database through MIS for the purpose of maintaining, enhancing the institutional quality. Periodical conduct of AAA, that is Academic and Administrative Audit, its follow-up, preparation and submission of the Annual Quality Assurance Report, the AQAR, according to the guidelines and parameters of NAAC. Finally, what is more important this year especially is the new AQAR would facilitate educational institutions for creating a good database at institution level for enhancing the quality culture. If you have checked this year's AQAR, which you obviously must have, this AQAR or this format of the AQAR is going to be almost like an SSR that you send in the final year. So 5 AQARs would mean your entire SSR. It is reducing our burden of collecting various data during the 5th year when you are actually approaching NAAC for the NAAC visit. So unless and until you set a goal, whatever you wish will not materialize. IQAC, in a way, is the goal-setting mechanism of the higher education institution. There are these newly introduced key indicators. The first is pre-qualification. Once you send your IIQA, the institutional letter of intent, at least 30% of your data has to be validated, which will pre-qualify you for the further steps of accreditation. Teacher profile and quality is an additional indicator. Student satisfaction survey, as I said, which came up in 2017, you have to, there are 10% of students who will be contacted, at least 10% of students who will be contacted and who would be filling up the questionnaire that NAAC sends them. The peer team will have access to the answers that the students have given to the questions in the questionnaire. So once the peer team goes through the answers, the responses of the questionnaire, they will have a fair idea of what the students want as part of improvement in their institution. innovation ecosystem. The institute has to become a focus of innovative ideas, innovative activities. Alumni engagement is also a very important parameter which is newly introduced. Institutional values and social responsibilities. The factories or companies have a CSIR. Now, we too have responsibilities that we have to partake in with reference to the social aspects and the society that we live in. Institutional distinctiveness is another indicator which has been added in the new AQAR. Institutional preparedness for implementing NEP 2020, National Education Policy 2020. So the essential part is for cycles 2, 3, and the following cycles, the IQAC has to be functional. There has to be timely submission of AQARs annually. Institutions have to submit IIQA 6 months prior to the expiry of the accreditation status, and other steps remain the same as the first cycle. There are a number of guidelines to the HEIs in filling the AQAR. The NAAC website is very, very reader-friendly. They put up a lot of information and they put up a lot of, study material also. So whenever you are in doubt, first of all, visit the NAAC website. Especially, there are a number of frequently asked questions which are answered, which most probably will answer most of your doubts. The guidelines which are given to the HEIs, submit your AQAR online. So our AQAR are to be submitted only online and not offline. No hard copies will be entertained. Data of only 1 year has to be sent. Duly fill the data template which has to be submitted along with the AQAR. The data template along with supporting documents needs to be uploaded in the institutional website. The QIF responses, the QLM responses to be recorded in 100 to 200 words only. The quality QLM, quality responses have to be included or recorded in just 100 to 200 words. This last condition is important. If the institution does not submit the AQARs in time, it will be recorded as late submission. The same will be reflected in the notification in HEI as well as NAAC portal. Auto-generated email will be sent to the institution for late submission. I'm sure none of us will be happy to get an email mentioning late submission of AQAR. If the institutions do not respond for clarification sought, do not re-edit in AQAR within the stipulated timeline. What happens is you send your AQAR along with the documents, along with the supporting data, but there is some problem that they find out with the supporting data and they ask you for clarification. And they give you about 2 weeks, 3 weeks time for the clarification. If you do not send your clarification within that stipulated time, NAAC will accept the AQAR as it is and an automated email. There will be 3 reminders first, and yet you do not respond to them, then it will be accepted as it is without accepting your claims. They will accept whatever they think is right, and such an email will be sent to you, to the HEI. After the approval of AQAR, the edit option will not be provided. All the glossaries used in AQAR shall be read in conjunction with the respective manuals. The glossary part is also very important in each and every NAAC manual. Most of our problems will be solved if you carefully go through the glossaries, if you carefully go through the frequently asked questions list. The AQRs of the previous 5 years have to be sent. Now, if you are going for a NAAC accreditation, then 5 years of AQAR have to be sent, in which there are details of the institution, the composition and activities of the IQAC, the plan of action of the IQAC and the outcomes, the criterion-wise details. All activities, plans must be kept in mind with NAAC core values and the 7 criteria. The AQAR of the preceding year should be submitted online to NAAC before 31st December of every year. Because of the pandemic, they have had a flexible timetable, but now, this year, our last year's AQAR will have to be submitted before 31st of December. So, in a few minutes before, I said that a functional website is extremely important. So what are the things that you need on your website? You need contact details, vision, missions, trends, programs, program outcomes, program specific outcomes, course outcomes, and a highlighted link on homepage for NAAC records, files, the SSR, team report, AQAR, NAAC certification, accreditation, and other documents. Departments and faculty, student strength, your academic calendar, your examination results, the various committees that you have formed in your institution, IQAC and the minutes of the IQAC, AQARs and the details of the institution, the RTI Act and the Anti-Ragging Act. The AISHE data that is sent, every institution has to send the AISHE data. The All India Survey on Higher Education. Since 10-11, we have been sending this data, and this data is necessary for teachers, student enrollment, programs, examinations, results, finance, and infrastructure. Be careful to write down the same numbers that you have captured in your AISHE data in your IIQA. The IISHE data helps to understand the institution density, the gross enrollment ratio, pupil-teacher ratio, gender parity index, and per student expenditure. These are some of the prerequisites for IIQA. Once you have completed all your 5 AQARs, and you are now supposed to go for the 4 AQAR, and this is the 5th year, you are now supposed to go for the accreditation. You have to send your IIQA, that is Institutional Information for Quality Assessment. Do you have a functional IQAC? The minutes of the IQAC meeting, the compliance with the decisions, mandatory submission of AQARs on a regular basis, upload the AQAR on the institutional website. This year, we have received the revised AQAR format in 2 parts. The first part has part A has 3 parts. The first part includes institutional information. Data may be captured from IIQA. Number 2, institutional preparedness for national education policy, implementation of National Education Policy 2020. You have to describe each of these in 500 words. And what are the parameters that are referred to? Multidisciplinary, interdisciplinary programs, academic bank of credits, ABC, skill development programs in your institution, appropriate integration of Indian knowledge system, teaching in Indian language, culture, using online courses, focus on outcome-based education, distance education, online education. And the third part is extended profile of the institution. These are 3 parts of part A. In part B, you have all the 7 criteria. Criterion 1, curricular aspects. I will briefly go through this. Criterion 2, teaching and learning and evaluation. Teaching, learning and evaluation. Criteria 3, research, innovations and extension. In research, innovations and extension, here are a few suggestions I would like to make. Most of us who belong to undergraduate and postgraduate colleges are not very sure whether we will be able to conduct research activities within our institution as demanded by the NAAC AQAR. You can do so by, and these are a few suggestions, you can do so by encouraging research at the college level, the teacher-student participation in selected projects. You can encourage inter and intra-university activities such as Avishkar. You can encourage and guide research activities through discussion groups, develop habit of reading, data collection, analytical point of view, critical perspective. So, this is related to your evaluation methodology also. Even within the classrooms, you can adopt such evaluation methodologies which would enable students to research, which will enable students to become initiated learners, because that is what we need in the coming years. Encourage action research, research related to locality, research helpful for the local community, industry, etc. And we will have to make our students aware that documentation of all kinds is extremely essential, that they should not be lazy or they should not be negligent about documentation. You can start off by developing the art of taking notes in your students. It is a general observation these days that students do not take down notes when you are lecturing in the class. They simply listen to what you are saying. You will have to encourage them to take down notes so that they understand how good notes could be taken, how they could concentrate on the most important points that you are delivering, and they could then transfer the skill of note-taking to taking down notes from reference books that they could get from the library or various other resources, even electronic resources that they will find handy these days. You could also declare a reprography-free, mobile-free day in a week when students can practice writing, reading, summarizing, drawing conclusions, all skills required for a research perspective. The library has a big role to play in creating a research environment. So they can display, lend books on a pre-decided topic for a week and ask faculty and students to share their reading notes. Rewards to recognition of students and faculty who display research talent include a section on research in the annual magazine. These are some of the suggestions which probably would come in handy when we are preparing our plan and AQR later. Then you have criterion 4, infrastructure and learning resources. Criterion 5, student support and progression. Criterion 6, governance, leadership and management. And criterion 7, institutional values and best practices. In 7.1.1, you have a very important point, that is gender equity. And you will have to be very careful while you are filling up, in fact, while you are planning for 7.1.1. Are you providing specific facilities in terms of safety and security, counseling, common rooms, daycare center for young children, so on and so forth? Gender equity is an important focus of 7.1.1. You could therefore take up some quality initiatives for women empowerment. Providing conditional cash transfers, stipends, scholarships, reducing the distance to the institution by either giving them hostel facilities or providing them bus transport, involving boys and men to be part of discussions about cultural and societal practices, hiring and training qualified female teachers, building safe and inclusive learning environments for girls and young women, ending child or early marriages, addressing violence against girls and women, and ensuring gender-sensitive curricula and pedagogies. You can introduce courses related to skills and competency, individual, collective, public skills, knowledge skills, interacting with the world skills, balancing skills of rights with responsibilities, rights with privileges, freedom with respect, power with restraint, safety and security, equity and inclusion, sustainability, and global citizenship. Because women of today are going to be simultaneously local as well as global citizens. If they fare well in the local scenario, only then will they fare well in the international scenario. So they are custodians of environment. There has to be global awareness among them. They have to be multi-literate in a sense. If we empower our women, entire families would be empowered with an empowered women. The entire population would be empowered once our women are empowered, and once our women become responsible citizens and women realize the importance of their contribution to making this society an international society. 7.1 also talks about institutional values and social responsibilities. So here are some points. Does it organize gender equity promotion programs? Does it display sensitivity to issues like climate change and environmental issues, environment-friendly practices, energy conservation, rainwater harvesting, water cycle, recycling, so on and so forth? Differently able friendly. Is the institution friendly towards the differently able? Locational advantages and disadvantages, which is also called as situatedness, concern for human values and professional ethics, and concerns for social responsibilities. Are all these reflected in the regular activities that are undertaken by the college? A word or two about best practices. I would like to define what a best practice is, because most of us, whenever we are writing down details regarding best practices, find it quite difficult to identify best practices or even to understand what best practices are conducted in the college or in the institution. What is a best practice? Any practice or practices that the institution has internally or voluntarily evolved and used during the last few years, which leads to a positive impact, ease of work on the regular functioning. So, for example, in Bordi College, we used to start our first term on the very first day. So, first lecture on the very first day, which would help us to compensate for the heavy rains and the shutdowns that we had to face because of the heavy rains. We were never short of time for completing our syllabuses. At the same time, before the semester age came, after 2016, prior to that, we were able to hold beyond the curriculum courses during the last 20 days of April. Students would join these courses and they would be taught things that were not included in the curricula. So, any such practice that is beneficial for a large number of stakeholders in the institution, whether it is the office, whether it is the college staff, whether it is the students, any such activity that eases the work, that becomes helpful, that supports, that increases the value education, becomes the best practice of your college or your institution. It evolves some innovation or change in some aspect of functioning relevant mainly within the institution at a given point in time related to teaching, learning, office practices, maintenance, so on and so forth. Because we are all dealing with human beings. The best part of our profession is that we deal with human beings. We work on the future of human beings. We are creating the future wealth of this country. Best practices are relevant within the institutional context and may pertain to either academic or administrative or organizational aspects of the functioning of the institution. One word on institutional distinctiveness. There are a number of questions asked about this point also. What is the meaning of institutional distinctiveness? The question that I would like to ask those who ask this question is, if your institution has been around for the past 20 years, 25 years, 30 years, find out the reason why your institution continues to be there for the past so many years. You will get your answer of your institutional distinctiveness. Every institution would like to be recognized for certain of its attributes, which makes it distinct, one of its kind. Such attributes characterize the institution and are reflected in all its activities, in focus and practice. So, be very careful when you are defining the distinctiveness of your institution. Why does your institution continue to survive? Why does your institution continue to thrive? Who are the people who are being benefited by your institution? That will make your institution a distinct institution, a characteristic institution from all others. Now, this distinctiveness probably is an answer to this cartoon that was making its rounds on the WhatsApp last year. It seems Albert Einstein had said that, with reference to this cartoon, where you have a snake, a monkey, an elephant, a fish, a fox, and they are all being given the same examination. For a fair selection, everybody has to take the same exam. Please climb that tree. That is what the examiner says. Obviously, for some of them, it's going to be very difficult to climb the tree. For the fish, it would be death climbing the tree. Don't we also prepare examination questions or examination papers for students with different abilities? And then those who do not have the ability to answer your examination sheets end up getting a red mark. Everybody is a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing that it is stupid. In this case, therefore, the distinctiveness of an institution becomes very important. You have to stress upon, concentrate upon your distinct features. The various stages of accreditation, assessment and accreditation, online submission of IQA, then SSR, data validation and verification, student satisfaction survey, peer team visit, and institutional grading. These are the 5 stages or 5 steps. Future plans of action for the next academic year is one part of the AQAR that you are writing, the new AQAR, in which it is talking about academic, administrative, and NEP preparedness. Please go to all the appendices. There are appendices, the appendix, after every manual. Please refer to them very carefully because they are a source of great information. So you have Appendix 1, which is glossary and notes, Appendix 2, which are abbreviations, Appendix 3, guidelines for institutions to opt out of non-applicable metrics, and Appendix 4, optional metrics for affiliated and constituent colleges. NAAC preparation, or for that matter, preparing to be a quality higher education institution is not a single person's effort. It is a team put together which is responsible for the entire quality management of the institution. And that is why it is necessary to motivate your team. NAAC is all about teamwork. 30th January 2021, the UGC has issued instructions making it mandatory for all higher education institutions to undertake the NAAC exercise. And if you do not have a minimum score of 2.5 by 2022, maybe the institution will have to be closed. In a bid to ensure that higher education institutions should get accredited with a minimum score of 2.5 by 2022, the University Grants Commission has issued special instructions in this regard. 9 मार्च 21 सकाळमध्ये ही बातमी आली होती. राज्यातील 1800 संस्थांचा नॅकला ठेंगा. शैक्षणिक दर्जा राखण्यासाठी नॅक मूल्यांकन अनिवार्य आहे, पण राज्यातील 1864 शैक्षणिक संस्थांनी अद्याप एकदाही मूल्यांकन करून घेतलेले नाही. नॅक मूल्यांकनापासून पळवाट शोधणाऱ्या संस्थांना विद्यापीठ अनुदान आयोगाने दणका देत 2022 पर्यंत मूल्यांकन करून घ्या व किमान 2.5 गुण मिळवणे आवश्यक केले आहे. पुढील वर्षभरात मूल्यांकन करून घेताना संस्थांची कसरत होणार आहे. आजच हायर एज्युकेशन कडनं जॉईंट डायरेक्टर आणि डायरेक्टर दोघांच्याही कडनं अशा एकदाही नॅक न करणाऱ्या संस्थांना पत्र आलेली आहेत, किंवा सगळ्याच संस्थांना पत्र आलेली आहेत की नॅक हँड होल्डिंग ऍक्टिव्हिटी फॉर नॅक ऍक्रेडिटेशन घेणार आहे आणि 14 तारखेला त्यांची ऑनलाईन बैठक आहे, ऑनलाईन हँड होल्डिंग सेशन आहे की जो सगळ्यांनी अटेंड करावा असं सांगण्यात आलेलं आहे. त्यामुळे नॅक न केलेल्यांनी जितकं जमेल तितकं लवकर या नॅकच्या एक्सरसाइजला सामोरं जाणे आवश्यक ठरणार आहे. नाहीतर तुमचं अफिलिएशन, तुमचं मान्यता, तुम्हाला मिळणारे स्कॉलरशिप्स या सगळ्यांच्या बाबतीमध्ये प्रश्नचिन्ह उभं राहू शकेल. महाराष्ट्रातील परिस्थिती 9 मार्च 21 ची अशी होती. एकूण महाविद्यालय आपल्याकडे 3141 आहेत. एकदा मूल्यांकन झालेले महाविद्यालय 1277, 2 वेळेला 867, 3 वेळेला 379 आणि 4 वेळेला फक्त 4 महाविद्यालयांचं मूल्यांकन झालेलं आहे. यातील सध्या व्हॅलिड स्टेटस असलेली महाविद्यालय किती आहेत याची माहिती मिळालेली नाही. आणि एकदाही मूल्यांकन न झालेली जी महाविद्यालय आहेत ते 1864 महाविद्यालय आहेत. टीम बांधणं आणि टीमला थोडस सपोर्ट करणं, हे जसं हा पक्षी आपल्या छोट्या पिलाला छोटासा धक्का देऊन उडायला शिकवतोय, तशाच पद्धतीनं यू नीड अ जेंटल नज by the management, by those who want to help you in getting your NAAC accreditation. इतका अवघड नाहीये. नीट समजून घेतलं, नीट व्यवस्थित माहिती गोळा केली, डेटा आपण नीट ठेवलेला असला, त्याचे जे प्रूफ्स आपल्याकडे व्यवस्थित असेल, तर ही संपूर्ण प्रोसेस वाटते तितकी अवघड नाही. खूप चेंजेस आलेले आहेत. नॅक मेथडॉलॉजी मध्ये चेंजेस आलेले आहेत. पण जर आपल्याला वाऱ्याची दिशा बदलता येत नसेल तर आपल्याला आपली शिडं किंवा आपलं जहाज त्या दृष्टीनं वळवायला पाहिजे आहे. सो फॉर ऍडजस्टिंग टू नॅक मेथडॉलॉजी, इफ यू कांट डायरेक्ट द विंड्स, then you have to adjust your sails. Thank you very much.
Thank you, madam, for your expert guidance. Honorable Sir Dr. M.S. Gosavi Sir, Secretary and Director General of Gokhale Education Society. Sir has redefined the significance of education through his futuristic perception and 63 experienced years in the arena. He has to his credit the world record of being youngest principal with the longest duration of 38 years. He has enlightened the lives of not only the students of Nashik, but even the rural Adivasi areas of Jawhar, Bordi, Kosbad, Talasari. He initiated the MBA program for the first time in India. He has adorned many prestigious positions like Chairman, Maharashtra Council of Educational Administration and Management, Member of Executive Council, Senate Member, Dean of Faculty of Commerce, Chairman, Board of Studies in Business Administration in Pune University. He has been the President of Indian Commerce Association and Chairperson All Asia Management Conference held at Tokyo. He has widely travelled and visited universities of repute in Middle East, Europe, USA, UK, Australia, South Africa, Malaysia, Thailand and all states in India. Sir has given the motto of Vidyarthi Devo Bhava to the society and thereby has always kept students as the nucleus of the process. The numerous awards and titles that are conferred upon him are the evidences of his magnanimous contribution in education at global level. With his excellent leadership skills, he made Gokhale Education Society lead and quality educational enterprise. I request Honorable Sir for the Presidential Address.
At the very outset, I keep on record my highest appreciation and in fact congratulations for your college for arranging such a webinar on the occasion of the 75th year of Indian independence, and also when our society has completed 103 years more and is entering into first decade to give education a new meaning and a new purpose. And in fact, webinar of this type with the subject that you have taken in hand, revised accreditation program which the UGC has sponsored and various aspects of it will definitely contribute meaningfully for making our higher education really more effective and useful. I am very happy that Mrs. Kulkarni, who has been resource person for this webinar, has contributed meaningfully for this activity. She is in fact the senior most teacher of English in our society, having served HPT Arts College for a very long time and at present occupying the position of a principal in a very remote area like Bordi, Adivasi place, where she is in contact with the real learners of the present century in villages and towns. And I am also happy that the results which have been obtained as a result of this activity of webinar ultimately contribute for building up the sound image of the college. Regular activities like curriculum program that we have to complete under a particular course, a 3-year course, graduate course, or a further 2-year postgraduate course, is a university assignment given to the students through our college, enabling them to complete a particular portion on a very specialized area that they take. And your college is fortunate that you have as many as so many subjects under home science, under commerce, under management, food and nutrition, textiles and clothing, child development, human resource management, and in addition subjects which are in the arena of fine arts, art and painting. And your college has a wonderful record of curricular and extracurricular activities, as a result of which very holistic personalities of the learners have been built over a period of time with the help of staff, with the help of library, and with the help of laboratories that are developed in this college over a period of time. I must emphasize that higher education has a very meaningful role to play in the life of a person. And in fact, in addition to parents and teachers in the school that we all have for building up our personality, there are many people who are associated with our total progress in the life that we do, and therefore it is necessary that we must, in addition to the learning that we have in the institution, we must develop qualities of reverence, gratitude, and sound health, which are the basis of making you more vulnerable for contribution to the economy. This is a subject which you have taken for your webinar, which will be giving you the changes and trends that UGC is introducing in various aspects, and particularly through new education policy which is coming up, and implementation of that has been started right from 2020-2021. I emphasize three aspects which are there in the new education policy, which have a direct reference to what we are doing at the moment in terms of quality and in terms of understanding. Number one is the university course or courses in higher education need to be made more flexible. This is one of the important recommendations of the new education policy. It is true that new subjects have been introduced by various universities recently, while the curriculum was remaining very stale in the past for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. But changes have been made during the last 10-15 years, and courses have been updated and new subjects have been introduced. But in the fast-moving world, and particularly with the scientific advancement that we are having in different fields, it is necessary that a student of 21st century must be conversant with certain new concepts which are emerging, and on the basis of which he will be able to play his role more meaningfully after graduation or after his leaving the portals of the college and the university. A subject like artificial intelligence, big data, communication skill, 3D printing, effective Internet of Things, and various biosciences which are emerging, you see, are not a part of our curriculum under any of these schemes, arts, science, commerce, engineering, or for that matter any professional subject or professional degree. But these subjects and topics under these subjects are very relevant for building up the productivity of the nation and also for making you more and more conversant with the requirements of the new world. And it is from that point of view that seminars or webinars, as we call them, play a very important role in the life of a student, particularly in higher education. In fact, it is necessary that apart from the college academic curriculum, we must spend as students, as learners, minimum 2 hours, 5 days a week, throughout the year for enlightening ourselves on various aspects of and concepts that are very relevant and important for our day-to-day life later on. And there are many persons and sources which help us in building up our personality. The guest speaker who has come today in this particular program And like that, guest speakers are there in all webinars and seminars that we organize. You see, the expertise that they have is transformed into wisdom and knowledge in a shorter period than otherwise, because of the participation in a meaningful way in smaller groups under this particular system. Similarly, the sports that in which you get yourself acclimatized during the course of 3 years also adds to the beauty of your personality. Therefore, in addition to the regular studies that one is making, and of course, every student, I believe, is a first-class student and must maintain his status of being a first class throughout by determining himself or herself that as students who are reaching the height in the examination, number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we always know. Like that, every student has an opportunity to run in that list. Therefore, every student, according to me, can become a first-class student, provided he invests his time in addition to the college work, curricular and extracurricular, at least for some time, 1 hour or 2 hours, 5 days a week or like that, throughout the year, throughout 3 years, so that there is a constancy and thorough understanding of the subject. Another important aspect of learning is question-answer method, which we have to adopt. Every student must remember that he must raise at least one question during a week for the subject in which he is interested, and see that that question is properly answered and he is satisfied. Enriching the personality with the queries in your mind and getting the concepts clarified is one of the important methods that we automatically adopt in the webinar or in a seminar. Regular lectures are important. Your assignments are important. Practical is important. Exercises are important. But in addition to that, it is necessary that we must develop for every subject in order to become a totally competent individual and a very person with productive resources at our command for doing any work efficiently. This is necessary. So, understanding the subject is one part of this game. Secondly, the topic that you are discussing under the webinar, and as already stated by your guest speaker, pertains to the revised accreditation program that UGC has adopted. Accreditation is a very important part of gaining confidence in what we do. It is necessary that examination should be there. The role of examination is to create in the learner a confidence that the knowledge that he has is more useful to him and he has made it a part of his total living. Similarly, UGC has adopted under this particular program a very new concept of accreditation and reaccreditation, and for that revised norms have been created. It is necessary that we make our education more updated and meaningful through participation in a meaningful way, and this gives you an opportunity in that direction. I am very happy that your college during the last 30 years and more has heightened the image not only of your institution but the institution of the society at large, and has provided a model where the discipline of the students on one hand and the teaching and other programs that the college organizes on the other with the help of staff and other experts, you see, is a model which can be adopted by any institution who wants to make a progress and contribution in the field. Another important thing is the purpose of higher education really is to make the learner more competent in certain areas. And particularly in the present time, competencies of innovation and creativity are very important. Everything has to be done differently. Don't do different things, do everything differently. That is the advice that one can give to you. And I also feel that when I was a student like you in the college, some 60, 70 years back, I also thought that, of course, those days were a little different than what the days today are. But even then, majority part of our living remains the same. Therefore, what we have done is, in addition to the university curriculum and course that we undertake and complete it with full concentration and assignment, we also do little other things which are very complementary for building up our personality. As I said, these are the new subjects which are emerging, artificial intelligence and so on, which have been told to you in the beginning. And in addition to that, see, command our language, use of language in a methodical way. Particularly, I gave examinations for Marathi, Hindi, Sanskrit, and we have taken English as the medium of our instruction and writing. Therefore, reading Times of India, one column every day, will make you an expert in that particular language. Shakespeare had not gone to any school specifically for making himself a person of that order, but he was a regular reader of certain pages of a book which was useful in those days, and such books are available at every point of time during every decade. And therefore, little extra investment in time for building up the optimum personality of a learner, in addition to what is being done by the college, and the college is doing excellent, I see, contribution through all these programs that you are organizing regularly. And I know your students are also excelling in number of activities on their own and show qualities that they are not only, you see, related to the examination studies as such, but they are also preparing themselves to become more competent in handling the situations in times to come. Therefore, competencies of this type, which are to be developed through education, meaningfully can be developed through the programs like this. And number of such programs which are organized, not only in one subject, but all subjects and all special areas, and in addition to the subject of which you are having a liking, maybe a little different than what others are looking at. From that point of view, I feel that your college is playing a very important role. You are participating in the program, and this discipline and the devotion with which teachers, non-teaching staff and the students at large are taking benefit of the facilities. See, our college has come up as one of the most important model colleges in the committee of colleges that we have in different universities in our state. And that is the greatest satisfaction that we have. So in this particular 75th year of our freedom and the 100 years that we are going to complete of our Nasik campus of the society very recently, maybe 2024, you see, we all will definitely appreciate and admire the contribution that you are making, your predecessors have made, and the future generations which will get example from what we do today. With these words, I once again keep my compliments and appreciation for this event which you have organized very methodically, and compliment your principal, vice principal, and other coordinators, conveners, and technical support staff that you have in this program, so that you see our overall image gets heightened and we become more and more supreme in what we are doing. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for your motivating and inspiring words. I request convener of the webinar, Dr. Mrs. K.Kulkarni Madam, to kindly propose vote of thanks.
Namaste. On the occasion of Azadi ka Amrut Mahotsav, Internal Quality Assurance Cell and Quality Control Cell of our S.M.R.K. B.K.A.K. Mahila Mahavidyalaya organized a national webinar on understanding revised accreditation framework. I am thankful to Honorable Dr.Mrs.Anjali Kulkarni Madam, former principal of N.B.Mehta Science and Commerce College Bordi, for her precious guidance. I am grateful to Honorable Sir Dr. M.S. Gosavi Sir, Secretary and Director General of Gokhale Education Society, for the presidential address and his blessings. I express deep sense of gratitude towards our Honorable Principal, Webinar Director and HR Director of Gokhale Education Society, Dr.Mrs.Deepti P.Deshpande Madam, for her kind support. Madam, thank you so much for always being there for all of us. I am thankful to Vice Principals Professor Dr. Mrs. Kavita Patil Madam and Dr. Mrs. Neelam Bokil Madam for their cooperation. I am grateful to Professor Dr. Nitin Songirkar Sir and Dr. Suresh Kanade Sir for their painstaking efforts. I am thankful to our efficient technical team, Mrs. Manisha Joshi Madam, Mr. Yashwant Kelkar Sir, Mr. Sandeep Odhekar Sir and Mrs. Smita Devre Madam. I am grateful to anchor Mrs. Pranita Nikumbu for the melodious anchoring. I will say thank you to Ms. Gitanjali Geete and Mrs. Trupti Dhoka for their timely help. I am thankful to Office Superintendent Mr. Sharad More and office staff for their cooperation. I am thankful to all the delegates for making this national webinar a grand success with their gracious virtual presence. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Madam. Here we conclude the national webinar. Thank you, everyone.